Welcome back, everybody, to a brand new podcast. This is the coolest guest I could possibly ever have on this podcast. It's my beautiful wife, Anna. Thanks for coming on, honey.
Hello.
Anna is a lot of things. Obviously, she's my wife. She is currently a killer real estate agent here in the Metro Detroit area. And but that's not why I have you on today, and you know that.
No.
That's why I have her on today. I am excited because this is a requested podcast from people. Mm-hmm. And the request was this: how do couples deal with risk when it comes to being an entrepreneur?
I've got some thoughts.
And so let's jump into those thoughts right now. First question for you is this. Let's look back 4 years, 2018. I'm starting doing insurance, or I was thinking about doing insurance. And I said, Anna, I'm going to study for this thing. Yeah. I'm studying for the test. We're currently engaged. Mm-hmm. We're not together. Mm-hmm. I'm traveling still. You're in Greenville, South Carolina. Mm-hmm. What was going through your head when I said, hey, I have this job. It's 100% commission. I don't really know, but I'm going to try it. What were you thinking back then?
I was really excited to marry you, obviously, as most couples are. But thinking through the logistics of you're going to start a fully commissioned job was honestly a little terrifying, personally, because I had come from a place of having money, and my college was paid for, and so I didn't really worry about that. So to now thinking through, I'm going to have to worry about this probably, and not really sure how, because I knew we weren't going to have a steady income. That was kind of the concerning thing for me, is there's always a steady income for me, and now I'm devoting my life with somebody who's not going to have a steady income. It was a little scary, not gonna lie. I think talking about it a lot helped. Seeing your effort, because you were very dedicated to this, because we were gonna get married too, and you were like, I gotta provide something here to the partnership and the marriage, and you were very dedicated to studying. I think it would have really scared me seeing you not as committed to the career choice you were making.
So communication, we talked a lot. And I remember, I think one of the things that maybe helped, because we had already gone through some trials in our relationship with other people passing away that we loved. Mm-hmm. There was trust that had already been starting to be built early on in our dating life and engagement.
Right.
And then talking through with you being like, hey, I remember saying like, hey, I don't know if this is the right move. Mm-hmm. And being vulnerable and honest with you, saying, hey, I don't know if this is the right move, but it's something that I want to try.
Oh, you were never like, I'm going to make money doing this. This is 100% surefire thing. You never said that. You were very much like, we could be in a situation for a minute. And I wasn't a realtor at the time. I was going to get a 9-to-5. Mm-hmm. So, but I hadn't had one, and we moved here and I didn't have one. And so it was just you. And that was a scary time too. I'm jumping ahead a little bit.
No, you're good. No, it's fine. So it's okay to admit that it was scary. So let's jump ahead. I started this career June of 2018. We were getting married in September of 2018. So I had 3 months.
We invested in your laptop and a car for you.
So we got those things, which was a huge blessing.
Yep.
And then I started.
And you hustled that summer, because we weren't married that summer, and I think that was one of the pivotal moments for me, at least calming me with the whole risk situation of you hustled that summer, and it was nothing but work, and you lived with your grandmother. Mm-hmm. And seeing you work so hard was like, he could definitely do this. Like, I had no qualms about you possibly making money, but it was kind of like, where is it? You know,
right.
Like, I'm getting close to getting married, and you hadn't made hardly anything that summer.
Yeah, I didn't make much.
You were making tons of connections.
The month we got, do you remember how much we made the month we got married?
Not much.
Do you remember? I still remember.
$700?
No.
What? We made $300?
We made $300 the month of September.
I had some money that I brought into our marriage.
Well, we had some of that, but then we also had gifts.
Yeah.
Like wedding gifts. That was majority of it.
We were poor.
Yeah. And
I couldn't find a job.
No, you couldn't find a job. So we didn't have much money. The money that we did get was, I made probably about like $2,000 over the course of the summer.
Okay.
And then I made $300 the month of September. Mm-hmm. I had 2 big enrollments fall through that month right before we got married.
That was the first time, besides your friend's death, that I had seen you cry.
Thanks.
That was like, no, because it just shows the reality of like, that was really hard to pour a lot of time and effort into something and to not see the fruit of it, and just being newly married and I didn't have a job and we were like buying groceries, you know?
Yeah, I felt like a bum. I felt like such a scumbag. Like, not scumbag. I just felt absolutely deflated.
That you had brought somebody into that?
Yeah, and I was scared because I worked all summer building these connections, setting these meetings, and then I was supposed to make like $5,000 to $10,000 in commission right before we got married, and I made zero. And I just remember just it all falling through. Even on our honeymoon, I'm just thinking in the back of my mind, I'm thankful we got some money from our wedding because I don't know where it's going to come from next.
Yeah. And yay, college. That didn't work out for me so well, getting a job right away.
What do you mean?
Once we moved here, my college degree didn't really get me the immediate job I thought it would.
Yeah, I remember you looking at everything said 2 years experience and bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
Everything.
I didn't get a job till November, but just that whole couple of months, I think that taught us a lot. And I think I'm so grateful you didn't quit and just decide, you know what, this is too hard and I've tried enough. Like, I think mentally we went into this with a long-term game plan. And I think that's probably a bigger, you know, having a much longer time to actually try something before you determine it's not going to work. Because a lot of people who do entrepreneurial careers, I think they put in like 3 or 4 months and they're just like, this is not for me. And truly, I don't think you get your groove until like a year, maybe.
Yeah, or more.
Because you're still learning how this actually worked.
So, I mean, that's a great point, first off. I mean, would you say if a couple is talking about someone jumping into a field where it's either commission-based or they're starting a company, they have to have a long-term mindset?
Yeah, exactly. I think, and I don't know if we actually did we put a time limit on it?
I think it said 2 years.
2 years of actually trying it and seeing if it would work. And I think that we said the same thing about real estate for me, like, got to give it enough time to see if it's truly not going to work for you.
And what that did for our marriage is set the precedent that quitting is never on the table. Quitting was not on the table until 2 years. Yeah. Right? I remember telling Andrew when he like hired me into this commission role, I said, I will commit for 2 years. I will not quit. I will give it 110% for 2 years. And so when you go in with that expectation, then if things aren't panning out, the questions aren't, well, maybe you should get a different job. That's when you were amazing. So jump ahead to November. You got a job. You found a job.
Yay.
And this is the funniest thing, guys. I still remember all of this like yesterday. We were struggling. I mean, it was down to the wire we had a couple $100 in it, $700
$700 in our bank account.
And our rent was $500 something because we were living in a basement apartment.
Yeah, glamorous.
It was beautiful. So we're living in a basement apartment. $500 was our rent. $700 was in our bank account, and I got the job in the like perfect nick of time.
I mean, yeah, and we obviously that's a God thing that the Lord provided for us when we were down to the wire. But we joked about, this is the funny thing, is like who's the breadwinner in our relationship.
Yeah.
And for a month, I think I was 1 month I was the breadwinner, and then since then I think you've.
Yeah, well, it's hilarious because we were like, I wasn't making much, and then once you got a job, the next month my business took off.
Yeah,
that was my first like double-digit month. I shared this in a previous podcast and on my Insured Press. That was the first month I made $10,000 in 1 month. It was in the month of December, and it was we went from. Yes,
Nothing.
Anna got a job to your paycheck doesn't matter like in 1 month.
Well, the paycheck was, I think, relieving because it provided our actual needs for the months. Yes. So it was a little bit of a relief for you to know that we could survive off of what I made, and while you were still getting the groove that you needed. And every month is different. Like you don't make the same salary.
No, like on January I made like back to like probably $700, $800 the following month.
So and the nice thing about that is we bought a house, but we bought it off of because I had the job. Yeah. That's how we qualified for a loan. Yep. So that was really helpful, I think, because you would have had to wait 2 years to get your statements to qualify as a 1099. So I think, and I was talking to you about this earlier, if you don't have a long-term game plan for the two of you or your whole family, and then also you don't have reserves or some spouse supporting you or something, that gets extremely stressful. That adds way more stress to the job that you're already doing, to know that, hey, if I don't make money this month, we're not paying our bills. So I think that my job, all it did was give you a little bit of stress relief so that you could focus on what you needed to do.
Yeah, because it's hard to focus on work when you're not sure if you can pay your bills. So when you got that job, it was like a burden was lifted off me saying, hey, okay, I have time now to build a business. Then it allowed, when I would talk to people about insurance, I wasn't feeling the background pressure to like sell them into a product they didn't need. Because that's what happens to a lot of people when they are really stressed with finances. Maybe they don't do their job correctly or with the right ethics.
Yeah.
It allowed me to say, I don't have to make this sale.
Yes.
It'd be nice to, but I don't have to.
That's a really good point. That ethically, it allowed you that pressure, and you've always been that way with your job. It's just like, you've talked people out of sales that they probably shouldn't make for their own budget, which I appreciate that about you. But yeah, I should probably clarify that we're a family that of combined finances. Like our salaries work as our family unit.
Yep.
So there was never his money, her money. Our finances pay for everything together.
I mean, you just jumped perfectly into our next point, which is the number one reason. Let's see if you can guess. Do you think the number one reason that we like never fought about money in our 4 years of marriage, especially the first year of our marriage? It should have been stressful, but it really wasn't.
Fought about money?
Why didn't we?
Oh, I don't know.
Budget.
Oh, we did budget pretty good.
We budgeted so good.
Yeah.
Our first year or two. It's kind of slipped recently, but the first 2 years of marriage, we knew exactly where every penny was.
We had to.
24/7. And it left no room for arguments.
Yeah.
Because we were both in tune to where the money was going.
Shout out Every Dollar.
Every Dollar, Dave Ramsey. Great program.
Yeah.
It's still probably my favorite budgeting app to this day. And we made sure every dollar was accounted. When you went shopping, not that you had to ask for permission, you were like, hey, what are we looking at in the budget? If I needed to buy something for the business, I came to you being like, hey, I kind of need this thing. Can we fit this? It was a mutual understanding that we're both working at this as a partnership. Yeah. And we're both going to come together and say, like, how can we like make this thing happen? And budgeting was such a big thing for our relationship early on.
You have to be on the same page lifestyle-wise, because my lifestyle before we were married was very different because of my financial situation.
But you were never flaunt.
I didn't, but it was never really something I had to budgeting wasn't so hard because of, my father passing away and coming into some money that was helping me get through college. That was never something that I really worried about. Whereas you worked your tail off every summer to have money to get through college. So,
my parents helped a lot too.
Your parents helped a ton. Yeah. And I think that was coming together once we got married and had those conversations when we were engaged about what's our lifestyle going to look like when we get married, specifically because I'm jumping into something so new. Yeah. We don't really know what that's going to be. And so we saved as much as we could.
Yeah. We both, and again, every marriage is different, but when, looking at it through how we view the world and even what God teaches us on marriage it's a oneness. And so I think not only did all of these things, but our faith backed every decision that we made as a couple.
Yeah.
So our faith backed, hey, when we are married, we're going to become one. That means our bank account becomes one. That means that our finances become one. That means that if you want to buy a clothing, that comes from our bank account. If I want to buy like whatever, it comes from our bank account. And both of us are on the same page on those purchases. And I
realize that not every couple is going to have that same mentality when they're married and when they're jumping into this. But I think specifically for entrepreneurship, having a spouse or somebody that you're supporting jump into something that isn't going to give you a regular salary, you have to, because they are going, if we had separate bank accounts, you'd be struggling.
Yeah, I'd be toast. I would not have been able to keep up my end of whatever I was supposed to be doing.
Right. Yeah. So we had to combine. And I think that even if you choose to have separate finances as a partnership or a spouse or whatever, like during this stage, you have to support them in a way that's not going to be repayable because financially speaking.
Oh, well, I mean, hopefully it'll be repayable in the long run.
Eventually. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's paid out quite a bit more. Like,
Yes. Yeah, it has.
it's been
It's been great. It's been a crazy journey. Do you think so? To any couples out there that are either struggling right now, or maybe for example, maybe there's a wife that's working at 9 to 5. They have 3 kids. They don't want to put them in the daycare. She wants to be a stay-at-home mom, but then she wants to do something at the side. And then the husband saying like, well, I don't know if we can afford it. And she comes up with there's maybe a commission job, maybe even if it's like, I mean, an essential oil business or any of those things that, moms love doing on the side. I'm not saying any of those are bad, but what would you say would be good, maybe communication talking points? I think we just went through them. I could list them.
I would probably say, how much is this going to cost me starting out? Like if you want to become a doula and you need the training for that, or you need the materials or the education. How much is it going to cost me up front that our family's going to take on that burden? And then how long are we going to give this a go? Because I think that you're going to want to stop in month 3. You're going to want to quit.
Yeah.
And that's when your spouse or partner needs to be like, no, you're doing this until this point, because you got to give it enough of a chance to prove to yourself that this is for me, or this is just not what I want to do anymore.
I think that's great. So you have, if you're looking to get it, honestly, feel free to reach out to us. But if you're looking to start something where you are 100% commission, one of the spouse, or start a business, communication has to be going on in your marriage.
Yeah.
There has to be a lot of communication. Be raw, authentic. Like Anna mentioned, like there were multiple days I came home and was like sobbing, or not sobbing, whatever, weep. That's what Mendo called it, weep. And because it was hard. So she saw the worst part of it, but then she also saw the hard work. And I communicated to you all of the stuff I was doing and we had going on in the business.
Yeah.
Like I gave you hope. I was like, hey, I know it looks bleak, but look at all of the leads and look at all these relationships I've been building. And it wasn't like we came home and just went to different rooms. We talked. She knew everything about the business that I knew because I told her everything I was doing.
Yeah. And that was super encouraging to me that you weren't just like, no, it's fine. I got this. It's all right. And you weren't like, this enrollment fell through and I didn't make anything off of this. And for me, that was my chance to be like, it's all right. Another one will come, and you got to keep going because you've already put in hundreds of hours into studying for this test and license. Like, you're going to make it work.
Yeah. Emotional support. So we've talked a lot about the money support and the communication, but emotional support cannot be overstated.
No.
Like,
I think it's hard. I mean, it would really be hard to start a business by yourself. That would be really difficult. Not saying you can't. And if you're single and you want to start something, go for it. I mean, you've got parents, you've got friends who can support you, but especially in a spousal situation, like you can't be, as the supporting spouse, somebody who's going to be like down on the person for like, darn, your enrollment didn't go through.
yeah.
Like,
You don't need someone nagging you when you walk home.
why didn't you bring any money home this month? Like, you should have worked harder. You shouldn't have gone to that event. You shouldn't have hung out with those friends. You should have been working. Like, they have to live their life,
Yeah, and
But
it's
you
a
need
two-way
to
street.
support.
Like, but at the same time, the entrepreneur has to earn the trust of the spouse. So it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
On one side, the spouse, whoever the supporting spouse is in the relationship, guys, the emotional support is so big. I knew when I was coming home that you would be like, hey, how was your day? And if it didn't go well, I never once in our whole marriage felt that you were judging me. I never felt once that you were like thinking that I should do something different. I mean, and if you did think
That's
I should
good.
do something different, you would say, hey, like 3 years into our career, or 2 years. I remember there was a time during COVID that was really tough. We both had an honest discussion of we continue doing this,
We should
right?
talk about that at some point during the podcast too.
All right, down.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, I earned that trust that I was going to work hard. Therefore, it's not that I was lazy every day, sleeping until noon, and you were like, it's okay, I emotionally support you. Like,
It was also hard being newly married. Like, we were just happy. We were long distance for our relationship, and that's another side topic, but we were happy to be married. And that was on our own, and starting our lives, our business career lives just together. That was
crazy.
different. And the funny thing is we should talk about the benefits too of why it worked out so well. I mean, the thing about it is like he went from coming home in October and just like almost sobbing over what didn't go well to hiring me in June of the following year. Like, that's the crazy thing, is that when I got my job in November, I quickly learned I hated it. Quickly.
But you stuck through, which was cool for the family.
Because we needed to.
You did it. Okay,
I did what I had to do.
Yep.
But I quickly learned that it was in staffing, and that was just not for me. And by June, Dylan was ready to take on an admin or somebody to help him. And I did the studying and I took my license exam and I joined you.
Yeah.
And we went from having an income that was consistent to a fully commissioned family at that point.
And you know what we did right when that happened? What did we just finish doing in April of 2018?
Oh, we got a house.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that the timing was the most responsible.
But we got a loan because of my career.
Yep.
We got that, closed on the house.
Yep.
2 months later, I left that job because you were making enough that we were like, we can pay for our mortgage and everything else.
And I needed help.
Yep. And that was a stress relief off of me because I hated what I was doing.
So that was June of 2019. And since June of 2019, we have been a 100% commission family.
Yeah.
Which that is insane to think.
And I wouldn't change anything about it because just the flexibility. Like, I could not imagine if you were at a career for 9-10 hours a day.
Yeah,
in the same place.
Yeah.
You get spoiled. But like
spoiled.
that, this whole career has just been the best thing. The things that I thought I'd hate about it, the inopportunity, like, what are we going to make this month, is kind of like, what are we going to make this month? You know, like, things are always changing.
Negatives turn into positive and
very quickly.
And I'm going to have Anna on a second podcast where we talk about her as a real estate agent. And I think I want to jump into this more on that podcast.
Yeah.
Because this should be encouraging for if you're the spouse in the relationship that is concerned about not wanting your spouse to take the leap, right? If you're the one maybe, but your job pays well and you know, it is the best decision we've ever made. Mm-hmm. I'm glad we did it.
Let them live out their dream.
It was hard.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
And if you're, the younger you are, the easier it is. The less responsibilities you have.
We didn't have any kids.
We didn't have any kids yet. And that was
But not to say that you can't do this.
Yeah.
At any point in your life. You just have to be very communicating together very, very well, budget very well, and have a game plan for, like, we're going to give this a year and try it out. And that was the most helpful thing because you do feel like you want to quit after month 3.
So we've talked a lot about the good and the hard parts. Mm-hmm. But there were times where I don't think that our marriage ever like hit rock bottom or we ever like argued about the business. But I do know that there was times that the stress of this job, there were times when you were like, Dylan, are we okay financially? Dylan, are we okay financially? Like,
I've asked
you
you
still
that.
ask that to this day.
Yeah.
Dylan, are we okay financially? And we look at the budget and we're like making sure, hey, do we have enough money for this? I don't know. Like, Anna
Finances
is a
stress me
saver.
out.
She like literally on the way driving here to this podcast, we stopped by a thrift store because we're getting ready to have our first baby, which we're really excited about. And Anna heard that there were baby clothes on sale at this thrift store that she wanted to save. And she got like 3 or 4 baby items for like $6.
Yeah.
And so
We do what we can.
but it all stemmed from us starting with no income and us being creative.
Yeah.
And so shout out to you for being flexible. And but what do you think are when was the hardest part? Did this become hard in our marriage?
COVID was the hardest part. It was hard to see you not go anywhere because that was not your norm. And you had been in the business for a year and a half, 2 years?
Year and a half.
Year and a half.
Yeah.
And you were made, you were given a position higher than a regular agent after 6-ish months or something like that.
9 months.
So you had a team. And COVID completely shut down everybody's business, but specifically the businesses that you would walk into to talk about your insurance product or whatever. They just didn't want to see you because the world didn't know what was going on. So that you had no way of making money. And then the people that you talked to were like, I don't know what's going on. I don't want to sign up for anything thinking I might lose my job tomorrow, which is, I mean,
Fair.
fair.
Yeah.
So then you were at home so much. And, I think we got into a little bit of a depressive couple of months, just being like, this is just not kicking it. We're not. And I was working with you at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I keep forgetting that almost whole year is like almost blanked out.
We
on
had
my brain.
the amazing thing, and this is just I think,
Oh,
again,
it's providence of God,
it's God
100%.
again, 100%, because we're not that great. But like, we had saved up so much money in 2019. I mean, so much money. We had saved up a good amount of money.
40 grand.
Okay. Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, that's the point. I mean,
And
I want
we-
this to be as honest as possible.
And
Go
we
ahead.
lived off of it in 2020
Mm-hmm.
because you made hardly anything that year.
Not
And
much.
because of COVID, it wasn't for lack of trying. And I think that was just a whole wake up call to us that, like, while this business, you're not at liberty to lose your job, there are ways that we might have to adapt and find other sources of income.
Yeah.
And that's where real estate kind of came up, because maybe it was good that we were in two different industries.
Sure. And that just shows the flexibility of you as the spouse, because she was supporting me in her role, helping with claims and making sure like my clients were happy. And that was what she was doing. And so throughout our whole marriage, Anna has just been this constant support of like, she'd ask me, do you think this is a good idea? If you believe it's a good idea, I believe in it too. That's pretty much how you've always lived, and vice versa. Like I did the same thing to you with real estate. Do you believe you can do it? Okay, I believe in you. And that's how we've lived our marriage.
Yeah.
And then we acted on it. And COVID was bad. I mean, it was hard. I remember almost quitting multiple times, going to get, like, I looked at jobs. I was on job searching to see, like, if it just made sense for me to stop being an entrepreneur and
And that's
stop
when I
working
talked to
commission.
you, like, should I go get a 9 to 5
Yep.
or go work at the grocery store or something? Like, I was ready to go do anything. And you were kind of like, no, we're going to wait this out. We're going to, we have the buffer to, once that is gone, then we'll think about it. But like, we'll have a buffer to do something.
Yep.
And that was actually an interesting year because it gave you a new perspective to look at your business and how you do it. And then it also gave me an opportunity to jump into something for the first time that I really wanted to do. That was, a completely different career change.
That you weren't even expecting to do that at that point.
No, but the two jobs, I mean, I liked working with you. I didn't necessarily like.
Oh yeah, you hated the job. You can say.
I didn't really like the business to business relationship aspect of sales. I didn't love.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing now is very personal, and I love that.
Yeah, you do a great job at that. We're going to take a quick break here for like a little commercial thing, and then we will be right back, and we're going to kind of tie in all of this here in just 1 second. If you're just tired of getting sold to by agents that are trying to upsell you to make more commission, you can go to englandinsuranceGroup.com. There you'll be able to get a quote without actually having to talk to an agent. Put in some general information, and then a little slider will pop up that kind of will give you a good idea of how much life insurance could cost you. If you're interested in getting more information, you can just hit that button that says get my final rate, and there you're going to be able to go and get more details on how much life insurance would be, again, without having to talk to an agent. And right beneath that is a form. If you're interested in talking to me, I'll reach out to you directly and help you with any life insurance needs that you have. Anyway, I hope this was helpful for you. Let's go back to the podcast. So with that being said, there's two ways for couples to look at like valleys. So for us, COVID was a valley for us. It was, we both hit our bouts with like just being depressed. And it got to the point I didn't even want to leave the house. I didn't want to go to work. It was bad. And then, but what it did is required me to take an inventory of my business with you helping, and we've improved because of it. So as a couple, if maybe you are an entrepreneur, maybe you're watching this and you already are owning a business or doing commission, and you guys are in the middle of a valley, and you two are communicating together, and you're like, we're not sure what's next. What I would encourage you is, and there's a study, I'll see if I can, I'll post it up on the screen when I edit this, but there is a study done at almost every single successful company, like ever, when right before they hit their biggest growth moment. There's a book on this, and I can't remember what the book is called. They hit their biggest valley right before their biggest growth. I'm talking like Apple, Google, like anyone, like they hit, it looked like rock bottom,
Yeah.
and most people wouldn't quit there, and most people do quit there.
Most do.
And the ones that don't are the ones that generally will
Innovate.
innovate and skyrocket to the top.
Yeah.
And that was always been our mindset. That's been the coaching I received from my mentors when I was going through this. Hey, like, learn from your valleys, learn from your mistakes, learn from your regrets. I mean, I like to blame COVID for how bad our business went, but I also got complacent and lazy and depressed, and I didn't even want to work, even when things were getting better.
For a time.
So there
Yeah.
is a level of taking responsibility for where your business is,
Right.
and then helping each other stay accountable within our marriage to make sure, hey, we still need your income. Hey, we still need you to work. And that's been the cool part. And so we've innovated, we've added new things that we do, we've added people. It's been a
Different
cool thing.
streams of income.
Yeah, so we have multiple streams of income that probably wouldn't have happened because pre-COVID, we had all of our income in what I was doing at the moment.
Right.
And so that's the encouraging thing for
I think
us.
we learned from that to be like, maybe that's not the best. Maybe that wasn't the best idea, not entirely, but that allowed us to innovate
Yeah.
and for you to get another stream of income and for me to do something different.
I don't think anyone could have predicted a whole worldwide pandemic.
No, but I mean, if you go through that, what?
Yeah, what else?
What else?
If we can survive that,
Yeah.
and that's the cool part. I mean, the Lord allowed us to have enough savings to limp through and get through those 2 years,
Yeah.
and then it allowed our family to be in a completely different space than we would have been had you
The
still
following
been.
year,
Yeah,
we were completely different.
getting there. Yeah, getting there.
Yeah. But I mean, and the thing is too, is like, as the spouse, my risk assessment's a lot different than Dylan's. How much risk I want to take on is way different from yours.
Yeah.
So for you,
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I wanted to talk about that.
because I mean, this happened all through your whole career of, hey, this might be a risky thing. And I tend to be like, can we play it safe? Just seeing the valleys of seeing the $700 in the bank account and seeing COVID happen. I'm a little bit more like, let's play it safe. And I think you're a little bit of more of a risk taker. And I think that combination works really, really well, because I think it helps you think through things a little bit more, and it helps me to trust a little bit more and not rely on ourselves.
Yeah, I'm a thoughtful optimist,
You don't do stupid things.
but I am optimistic.
Yeah,
Very,
you are.
like,
Yeah.
I'll tell Anna all the time, like, hey, I'm going to make this much a year. And Anna's like,
I don't tell you,
you know,
no, you're not.
you don't, but you know what you always say?
We'll see.
We'll see. Or I hope so.
I think the challenge helps an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and you do, but you never, but you're not disagreeing. You're not arguing with me. Your we'll see is just the safe bet of, okay, like, we'll see. But if it's something where you have always been, when it comes to actually risk, and this is so important, if you are the entrepreneur, your risk tolerance is way higher than your spouse, most likely.
It has to be, right? For
Yeah.
an entrepreneur, don't they have to have
Unless
a good risk
both of
tolerance?
you and your spouse are entrepreneurs. If she isn't, you need to understand when you talk to your spouse, she or he is feeling the pressure that you might not be feeling. You see the vision.
Yeah,
As an entrepreneur, you see the vision that they might not see yet.
right. I just know how much eggs are costing nowadays.
What?
You know, like, I see the grocery bills.
sure.
And like the daily things that we spend money on, and I'm like,
Eggs.
dude, do you know how much eggs are?
Yeah, like $6. It's crazy.
Oh, it's crazy. But like, you see the present things that are going to cost you guys money, whereas you're looking 10 years down the road, 5 years down the road. But if you don't look 5 years down the road, where's your business even going?
Right.
You know, so you have to have that.
I mean, you just have to listen to each other.
Yeah. Do you think it's easier as a single person it might be easier to start a business?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think the nice thing about having a spouse is if both of you can work, I mean, man, you can make anything possible. If your spouse can be working and
It's a
you
lot
living off
less
their spouse,
stress.
it's a lot less stress. So
Yeah.
if you guys maybe don't have kids yet, or you have family in the area that the family can watch kids and allow you guys to work and you know,
Yeah.
and make it happen, I think it's easier at that point if both spouses are bought in
Or
to
if
each other,
you have a savings.
or if you have a savings. And, you know, as an individual, I mean, I think if you have family, like I live with my grandma for the first 3 months to get this thing started. So I think that you can be more creative and do things like that.
There's also a lot less stress, because if you fail, you just fail yourself, versus if you fail, you're failing your spouse as well, and you're kids. And
But I think it's a beautiful thing of like that stress
But when
forced
you-
me to work harder.
it did. And when you succeed, our family succeeds. And that's just a huge, you have more celebration too,
Yeah.
which is great.
That's great. And I think that we did. Is there anything else that we forgot? I mean, we talked a lot about it takes time, budgeting, communication, listening to each other, sharing the vision, being patient with the spouse if their risk tolerance isn't with yours.
Yeah.
And like she said, I don't know how much eggs are really. I have no idea. But like I see the vision where our agency is going to go and I'm super excited for it. And
Yeah.
she sees like, okay, well, we have a baby coming. We have to buy clothes. We have to buy diapers. We have to do this. And I'm like, it's fine. And we're going to make this thing successful. And I see, and so if you're having those conversations with your spouse, actively
Yeah.
listening to each other.
Yeah. I think just good communication, you
Yeah.
can do this. And that's the nice thing is like, I don't think we're necessarily anything special, and we've made it like survive. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you've done amazingly well. I think you're special.
Thank you.
But,
My mom said I'm special.
You are. But like, I think that this is doable for a lot of people. If this is your vision and this is what you want to do and your spouse is on board, then go for it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really kind of good way to kind of end us off here. What would you give? Let's give advice. I don't think we need to encourage the entrepreneur. The entrepreneurs, they're ready. They're hungry. They're good to go. Give us some advice to the spouse that maybe their risk tolerance isn't as high
Yeah.
and maybe they're double thinking everything. What would be some advice to them right now?
I think that I think the love that you have for your spouse, your partner, whatever, you should help them try to achieve their goals and their dreams in any way that you can. And I think that putting some trust into them and letting them fall on their face a little bit and then letting them succeed, you're making them into a better person too, and a better career person. I think that that's healthy. I think that what the valleys and the issues that you go through in an entrepreneurial context is going to draw you closer together as a partnership, because while they are an entrepreneur, you're involved in that partnership. You play a role of some kind. You're never just kind of like, it's your thing. And if that's your attitude, I think that's going to be very difficult to allow your spouse or partner to succeed, because you're not going to really see them at their best when you're just like, I'm out of this. You fall on your face, it's on you. I'm just the backup. Like that's not how any relationship works anyway.
I just underlined and circled the word partnership. That is so.
Yeah.
He or she is not just jumping into a career. You both are.
Yeah.
Like I was not just jumping into insurance. We were jumping into insurance even before I asked you to work with me.
Yeah.
There was a understanding that whatever you need, we'll make this work because I want to support you.
Right.
That was great. I mean, anything else you want to add? Because if not, that was literally perfect.
No, just good communication. And I think that the biggest thing for you, because if they're not succeeding in a couple of months, as the less risk tolerance person, you're going to be like, all right, go do something else. I think having that conversation of how long will I let them stay here and how long will I encourage them to keep going is vital, because we had said 2 years.
Yep.
I never was like in October, hey, think about doing something different here, because we already had that conversation. And once you get to the 2-year mark, if things are still struggling, maybe that's a good opportunity to have that conversation. But those two things, just being supportive and connecting with them on that long-term goal.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. And so let me talk to the entrepreneur. You talk to the spouse.
Yeah.
Let me talk to the entrepreneur, and let's close this thing out. I wrote 2 things down. If you are the entrepreneur in the relationship, the only way that works is if you think through what you're doing. You have a good plan in place. You make sure that if it's a product you're selling, it's a good product. You have a good organization you're joining. If you're starting a company, you've done your business plan. You've had it checked. You've made sure that your ducks are in a row. Like you've done the work that deserves that respect and that care and that support. The only way what you're saying works is if the entrepreneur has put thought behind it and they're ready to give it 150%.
150, not 100.
No, 150%.
It's going to need 150 for a minute.
The other thing that I'd say is if you're the entrepreneur, you need to be patient with your spouse or whoever you're with and let them understand it's going to take time to like be okay with that decision. Like a spouse might be supportive, but their tendency might be to like tell you to quit or tell you like be patient with them, be patient with their risk tolerance. And honestly, actions speak a lot louder than words. The moment in our marriage in December of 2018, when I made that much money in 1 month, that was the moment for you that was like, oh dang.
Oh, it can work.
That's what you want. It can work.
Yeah.
But you were kind for 6 months ahead of time. There was nothing in the previous 6 months that told you this could work.
Yeah.
Until that month.
The only thing that I knew that could work is you.
Yeah.
Because
I did work.
you worked, your whole 6 months was just work, except for our wedding and honeymoon. So that was also like, yeah. If it can happen, he can make it happen. It's just we're waiting to see it happen.
Yeah, and that was earned. That wasn't just because you loved me. That was just you watched me work.
Yeah.
And so that's the second point. So number one, think through whatever you're going to jump into. Don't make it willy-nilly. Don't do it last second. Think through it. Think through the pros and cons. Talk to somebody already in that career. Talk to somebody already in that business. If you want to start selling insurance, call your uncle that sells insurance. Talk to your friend that sells insurance. Actually get a good view of it's like, for example, I have somebody that I'm trying to get to join our agency right now, and I suggested that me and you go out with him and his wife.
Yeah.
Because I want them to be able to talk to somebody that's done it already before they make a big decision for their family.
And to hear some of the horror stories and then hear the successes.
Yeah.
Because you have to be prepared for rock bottom.
Yes.
Because it will come with every entrepreneurial endeavor. I think with Derek, I mean, he talked about it on your last podcast. Like it will hit rock bottom at some point. And how are you guys going to navigate that so that you can come out on top?
Yeah.
Make it succeed.
And make it succeed. And
I'm so proud of you for all the work that you put into it. Thanks. Like the fact that we're here 4 years later, and I remember you talking to me about this weird insurance business that you wanted to get started, and it was like, okay, but it worked.
Yeah, and we're in an office space.
Yeah,
and it's been a crazy and
it's encouraged me to have something that I enjoy career-wise.
I mean, you were not as confident, and we're jumping into another conversation, but you were not as confident in yourself.
Yeah.
When we first got married. I don't think you would have been a real estate agent right off the bat. I remember talking,
No.
you struggled with even at your staffing job being confident. And now, I mean, you're just a completely different woman than you were 4 years ago when it comes to confidence.
I think working with you helped in that commission aspect. It allows you to work a little bit harder and get outside of yourself a little bit more because if you don't work, you don't eat.
Yeah. That's true.
And that's kind of our motto. Like, if I don't go to work today, we won't have food tomorrow.
We will eat ramen.
So,
and it will be delicious because you're a great cook. Thank you. Well, thank you. That means a lot. I think let's end the podcast there. If we could just summarize all of it, I think it's make sure you're on the same page with your significant other, spouse, whoever, before you start.
Yes.
On how long you're going to do it.
Yep. Budget.
Make sure you have some savings. Mm-hmm. Budget, so there's no arguments on where you guys' money is, because there'll be months where you make $5 and months where you make $5,000 or $10,000.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is it's a partnership. Mm-hmm. You both are jumping into whatever it is together.
Yeah.
And you have to think of it like that. And I think that if people do think of it like a partnership, I would say go for it. You think through it. I think a lot of people would be successful.
Yeah.
It's the best decision we made. It's not for everybody. But
it's more achievable than I think
it's
people
more achievable
think.
than people think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great ending. Thank
this was
you.
fun.
I love you. Be on the lookout for the next podcast that's going to be coming out. Not really sure when it is. I know one of the podcasts that will be released is actually on her specifically. Why did she do real estate? What did she learn? She's been doing real estate for 2 years. She's done unbelievable. How many sales did you do this past year?
I think I did 10 to 12.
10 to 12 home sales. And then what that total? I can't remember.
I totaled over $2 million in real estate.
$2 million in real estate your
sales.
second year.
Second year, yeah.
Yep. And then this year, she is pregnant right now, and she's going to beat that while pregnant. That's what she wants to do.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's cool. So definitely be on the look for that. Please like this video, comment, subscribe. All those things help. We're a small little podcast, but I do think a lot of people could benefit by hearing this kind of thing. Even if you're never interested in starting a business, just even just good marriage tips.
Marriage tips.
Marriage tips. It's kind of a
partnership
tips.
and
making sure that your loved one and you are on the same page. It will not hurt.
Yeah.
So thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video.
Bye.
Bye.